you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that while I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the court. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy BC Brandon Combs coming to you live on a Friday night before Christmas, on a freezing Friday night before Christmas, I might add. I gotta tell you, we got some snow the other night. It was it wasn't even much. It was about 1.5 inches of snow. They were talking about like 12 to 17 inches. We got 1.5 inches. Sounds like my love life. But it didn't get very much snow, but I went to go shovel it last night, and it was negative 25 with the wind chill here in Chicago. So it was not a fun time shoveling snow. Then I went out and got the snowblower just so I could get it over quick. I come in and my wife's like, she's like, who are you talking to out there? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I heard somebody yelling. I was like, yeah, it was me yelling at the damn snow. I was cussing it out. I was so angry every time the wind blew that I was out there shoveling the snow and snow blowing. But I digress. We got a great show coming in tonight. We're going to talk about the Cubs, and they went out and got their second catcher. I don't know if he's going to be the starter. I don't know if he's going to be a backup. We're going to talk about the White Sox. Are they going to trade Liam Hendricks? Talk about the Chicago Bulls. Should they blow it up? Probably. And we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. Of course, we got Ice Bowl 2 coming up tomorrow. Like it says in the stream and in the feed, if you're reading it, this is definitely going to be more entertaining than the Gasparilla Bowl. Speaking of more entertaining, let's bring on my more entertaining co-host. He is Ryan Fitzgibbons. What's going on, Fitzy?
What about the Cheez-It Bowl?
The Cheez-It, dude.
The Cheez-It Bowl.
The amount of bowls in this in college football now is amazing. Like, everybody's got a bowl game now. It's ridiculous. Like, we were looking before the show, right? We said, how in the hell does Barstool Sports have a bowl?
Yeah.
Where the hell's the Chicago Man Hour Bowl?
Yeah.
We're better than freaking Barstool Sports. Get the hell out of here, David Portnoy.
Yeah.
God.
Go eat some pizza.
Go eat some pizza.
Go have a pizza.
Dude, look, I don't know about you, but when you start looking at some of the names of the bowl games, right? Like I was cracking up because you go through some of these and you got the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. You've got the Hometown Lenders Bowl, the Cricket Bowl, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. How do you feel about Jimmy Kimmel having a bowl?
I don't even know how to feel about that. This is what I was saying to you before. At the NCAA, and male or female here, I'm not going to pick on either sex, but if the NCAA was a prostitute, how worn out would she be? She would
definitely not be one of them high class ones, right? She would definitely be a low
cigarettes.
class.
She'd have an old cocktail dress on. She'd be talking about, she'd be half drunk. She'd have bleeding gums at that point, or maybe no teeth, which might make it better. But I mean, the NCAA gets money for these bowls, and they'll just let anybody in. It's Jimmy Kimmel. What's the other one I was just looking at? The roofclaim.com bowl. Have you ever heard? At least you've heard of Jimmy Kimmel. At least you've heard of
roofclaim.com bowl. And that's another one. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I mean, dude, if we ever got a bowl game, I wouldn't even call it the Man Hour Bowl. I would call it the Smoke-a Bowl. Who's going to the Smoke Bowl? We're
Me too
we're gonna
well.
have Miami every year. We'll be in that bowl game. What's another school that you could think of that's full of criminals? We got Miami, and let's see, Miami versus Nebraska. Screw it. There's nothing
Florida,
else to
you'd
do in
have to
Nebraska
say.
other than smoke weed. So Miami versus Nebraska every year.
There
The
you go.
Smoke Bowl.
Or Colorado.
Oh,
Colorado.
Colorado.
Deion's there now.
Yeah.
Wonder how that's going to work
God,
out.
he probably smokes a lot of weed. Dude, do you get all of the people that were all over Deion about not taking or about taking the Colorado job and not staying with Jackson State?
I don't
do you get that at all?
I don't get that at all. People, you know what? It used to be people would like it when people got successful in this country. I mean, I don't want to globalize this, but I'm going to do it anyway. But I mean, why are people pissed that he left Jackson State? This isn't Nick Saban leaving Miami Dolphins and not telling the team and going to Alabama.
Dude, he was making like what, $300,000 a season at Jackson State. He's gonna make over $5 million at Colorado. It's not even a choice. People are, well, he should have been loyal. He's a sellout. Half of his players are going with them. they're all transferring to Colorado.
And has Deion Sanders ever struck you as someone who's not flashy? Like he's not going to go for the money,
right?
I mean, really, he hasn't. The guy. I actually like Deion Sanders. It's not like the guy. He doesn't try to be two-faced. You know what you got with him. You knew he wasn't going to. Jackson State, if that was successful, you knew he was going to move on. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah, and I have no problems with him going to college. For one, the guy has said before that he wants to coach a top college program. Now, I don't know why he went to Colorado, but I would have thought that Florida State should have been knocking at his door.
Yeah.
I would have made so much sense for Florida State to go knock on Deion's door and get Deion over to Florida and get him in Tallahassee trying to revamp that program, because that program used to be elite. When Bobby Bowden in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was an elite program.
Yeah,
and so to me, it would have made way too much sense for them to go get him. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't, but anyway.
Was it Charlie Ward to Warwick Dunn?
Charlie Ward, yeah.
Remember? Yeah, playing for the Nets.
The great Nick.
Yep. Backup point guard, but you know, he could run, man, and obviously Warwick Dunn, great running back for sure. So yeah, they had some good teams. Beat Notre Dame that year. Didn't face them in the national championship. Actually, Notre Dame beat them, but they beat them out. They won the national championship that year. 95.
93.
93, okay.
Yes. And you know why I know that? Because Notre Dame was the national damn champion that year. They beat Florida State. Then they come back home and they lose by a field goal to Boston College, a rivalry game.
Yeah.
And both teams finished the season with one loss. And back then there was no championship. Teams didn't face each other in a bowl game. It was a strict vote.
No playoff.
And they voted. Both teams are the only two teams in college football that year with one loss. Notre Dame's one loss came to BYU. Florida State's loss came to Notre Dame. And they voted Florida State the national champions. Such a load of shit.
I'm glad you want this show to be a show that relitigates national championships from 30 years ago, because I think we're going to go places. I think we're going to go places with that idea. I love this idea. We should talk about the 1994 White Sox. Strike-shortened season.
But you know what, though? People say that all the time. I hear Sox fans say all the time, we would have won the World Series in 94. Do you know how good the Montreal Expos were in 1994?
Are the Montreal Expos still a team if they don't go on strike that year?
Well, they are. They're not, because the Montreal Expos, it didn't matter. Montreal is hockey. Montreal is hockey. I mean, there's no room for any other sport there other than hockey. They just don't support it. Same thing down in Tampa Bay. Like, what? Tampa Bay has a really good baseball organization, and well, let me rephrase that. Tampa Bay, they draft well, right? Yeah. And they got a lot of good young players all the time, and they're always contending in that division. And they can't draw. They were in the World Series. They were having to give away tickets to get people in the stadium.
Jeez. Yeah, they can evaluate their own talent too. If Tampa Bay's getting rid of somebody, sometimes I'm like, what the
LeBlanc chiming in. What's going on, LeBlanc? Cheers to you, brother. Hey, look, I do bring up old shit. You know what I mean? But it's that championship. It was Notre Dame's championship. We could relitigate all sorts of champions, especially in college football. But I know as a Sox fan, you always want to talk about 94. You probably want to talk about 2005, just so people remember that you actually did win.
Yeah.
I know. Nobody ever remembers that one. Well, one of your two pictures hanging on your wall in the background.
Here we go.
Speaking of baseball organizations, Chicago White Sox, I'm hearing a lot of they might trade Liam Hendriks, and you're of the mindset that they're not going to trade Liam Hendriks. I know you were reading something from Bob Nightingale. So let me hear what you think about the White Sox, and I'll tell you what I think.
I think, well, I'll start with Bob Nightingale. Like I said, he's got his head up Jerry Reinsdorf's ass so much that he's blinking his eyes because and that's what he does. He'll do a puff piece on the Sox, and then the Sox will give him info, and he'll be able to feed it through USA Today. So that's how that works. But do I think they should trade him? I think a closer who pitches a lot of strikes is worth his weight in gold. That's why he gets smacked around, because his room for error is very small. Yeah. So that's why he gets smacked around a lot. But this is a guy who had in 2021 had 7 walks. I mean, as a closer, that's why when people are like, why is he still a closer? Well, first of all, he's got an under 3 ERA almost every year. Second of all, he throws strikes. If you throw strikes, you're going to be your manager's best friend out of the bullpen, and that's all he ever does. When he gets smacked around, he does, and then he fixes it usually. He has a couple bad games, sometimes 3, 4, 5, and then he fixes it. I don't see any reason to get rid of him. I mean, they do have a lot of pitching. They do. And Ronaldo Lopez would look great as a closer, guy who throws a lot of strikes too. But I don't think you just give away a guy in a bullpen who's been that sturdy. I mean, we're going on 4 years in a row he's been that good? 3 years in a row at least. He's been that good.
I mean, look, Liam Hendriks is also one of those guys too, though, that it took him a long time to break into the league. A long time to break into the league. I think he was in the Twins organization at the age of 18 back in 2007. He didn't really break out with the Oakland A's until really 2018, 2019, when he came into his own at the age of 29 and 30. So he's definitely a late bloomer. Last year was kind of he was 4-4 last year. He had a 3.43 ERA. Probably it was actually the worst ERA he's had in the major leagues, other than his first year with Oakland when he had a 4.13. But I don't put a whole lot into his 4-4 last year because the White Sox offense didn't do a lot to put him in position. And Tony La Russa
defense too.
Yeah, defense. Tony La Russa, there was a lot of times Tony La Russa bring him into a dirty inning to try to get him to save the game. Yep. And they didn't treat Liam Hendriks the way that Liam Hendriks should be treated. I would trade him though. I would pull the trigger because if you're going to let's say the Mets, right? Because that's the one name that I hear over and over and over are interested. The Mets, right? Because the Mets are interested in everybody. They're just going to sign everybody in baseball.
They want everybody.
Everybody's going to play for the Mets this year. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I think
They're the new Dodgers.
they've spent $810 million this offseason, and they're not done yet. I mean, it's freaking insane. And we'll talk about that too in a minute because I want to bring that up too. But if you put Liam Hendricks on the Mets, right, and the Mets right now are loaded, why couldn't you go out and be like, look, you want Liam Hendricks? That's fine. You have the ability right now to say, give me this guy, and this guy. You can have Liam Hendricks. If they say no, all right, cool. You don't get Liam Hendricks.
Maybe that's why they're not trading them.
But you have the ability to go out there, and it doesn't even just have to be the Mets. You can go to any team you want. Find that second baseman and that outfielder that you're looking for. Find your whatever it is you want them to find. You can take Liam Hendricks and be like, hey, look, if you want Liam Hendricks, this is what we want in return. And you could possibly get it. Maybe not.
My only thing is, Combs, is I hate to say it, but it's them being cheap again. They just buy a guy. They want to sell a guy who's worth just about as much per year as Andrew Benintendi. I mean, it doesn't smack of something that's making the team better. I mean, unless they get a stud second baseman out of it, in which case they got Colson Montgomery sitting in the minors, who's definitely going to be a major leaguer next season. I mean, I don't see the benefit here. I mean, I just don't see the benefit here unless you're retooling or something like that, which you're definitely not doing with the Benintendi addition. And let me ask you a question. Doesn't some of you think with all the Mets acquisitions, like, I mean, I wish that was us a little bit.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, and this is where I'm gonna go with.
Cubby's got money. I mean, the White Sox have money too. The White Sox.
Couldn't you go to the Mets
money.
and get Jeff McNeil though? That'd be a huge ad.
Yeah, it would be. Maybe that's who they asked for. The Mets said no, and they said, all right, we're done. Steelers done.
The Mets. No, we're not giving up nobody. What do you think? We're giving people up? We just paid.
We just acquired
to revamp. Yeah, that's all we do. If you want to give us Liam Hendricks, we'll take him, but we're not going to give you anybody for him. That's what the Mets do. So Steve Cohen, owner of the Mets, spending all this money. And I've heard about how owners, when Steve Cohen bought the team, there were a lot of owners that didn't want him being a part of ownership groups because of the amount of money that he has. Mm-hmm. And now I'm hearing people in the media talk about how Steve Cohen is bad for baseball and the way that he's doing business is bad for baseball. I think it's the exact opposite. I think what Steve Cohen is doing is resetting the market. And I've said for years, Fitzy, and you might agree with me, you might disagree with me here. A lot of people are asking for a hard cap in baseball. I don't think baseball needs a cap. I think it needs a floor. Because if you force teams to spend, I don't care what it is. Say it's $100 million is your floor. Okay? You're going to force teams to pay their salaries have to be at $100 million or above. And if you want to put a salary tax, luxury tax on whatever it is over a certain amount, that's fine. But you have to force some of these owners to go out. There is no reason why in a sport where they have revenue sharing that a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Cincinnati Reds, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who don't want to spend money year after year after year, continue to reap the fruits. And these teams are making $900 million a year, almost $1 billion a year for these teams because of the revenue sharing, but they're not even spending $100 million of that back into the team. So I think it needs a floor. I think Steve Cohen's great for baseball. I love what he's doing in New York. And there is no team out there like the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago White Sox, the Boston Red Sox who do spend money. They're not spending it lately, but they have shown that they're capable of spending money. Those teams, you've got small market teams now that are spending money. Look at the San Diego Padres. They got one of the smallest media markets in baseball. And look at what their roster looks like. Look at how much money they've spent on their roster. You can't tell me that the Chicago Cubs on the north side of Chicago, who now have their own TV network, they've got the team. And look, the Sox are great, but let's just face it, they're the second team in this city. They have been. They're always going to be. That's just what it is. They're printing money at Wrigley Field. They're printing money. So there is no reason. There is no reason why they should not be spending that and putting it back in to the team, and instead tell us, "Oh, well, we don't have any money." Steve Cohen, he's bad for the game. He's bad. No, he's not. He's doing what you guys should be doing.
He's doing whatever he wants to do. That's the thing. And these other guys are what are they? I mean, there was some collusion going on in 2019. Was there not?
Yeah.
Dallas Keuchel should not have gotten a deal, even though, fuck Dallas Keuchel, but Dallas Keuchel should not have gotten a deal in 2019, 80 games in. He shouldn't have. I forget the position player who got a deal too, 80 games in. It should not have. There was some kind of collusion going on where they didn't want to give guys contracts. They have guys on their rookie contract. I know baseball is a different sport than other sports, but they're on, rookie contracts for 6-7 years. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Playing the time game, all that, because they're all in collusion. They don't want to rise up. They don't want to raise up prices. It's ridiculous. They don't want to raise up prices of guys. So no, actually, I do agree with you, and I think there should be a basement. I don't think the Pittsburgh Pirates should make money every year because they suck.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that should happen, and that's obviously
they've
what
got
they're
a
doing.
great fan base in Pittsburgh. I've been to that field. I've been to PNC.
Oh, it's beautiful.
They've got a great
field,
ballpark.
Yeah.
They've got a great fan base. What they do to their fans, man. Look, it's hard for us to be fans here in Chicago, watching what our ownership groups are doing. But man, am I glad I'm not a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, man, because I feel bad for them. Like the stuff that look at the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers market is actually smaller than Pittsburgh's market, and the Texas Rangers have, I think it's almost $1 billion in their middle infield that they spent last year. Like, just spend the money. You're making it, and even if you give a guy, it's a thing I don't think a lot of people think of. Like, let's take any of these guys right now, right? Like, let's just take the Cubs. All right, so they went out and they got Dansby Swanson, and they paid him $177 million. That $177 million doesn't just hit this year. That's $25 million. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people think of it like that. I think they look at it and they just think, oh, 177 million. They may not. So yeah, no. If anything, people talk all the time. Oh, there's no player that's worth that. Players shouldn't be paid that much money. If anything, Major League Baseball players are actually underpaid. If anything.
If you look at wins above replacement and what a 2-3 win player costs, like we were talking about Andrew Benintendi, and everybody was saying that was too much money for Andrew Benintendi. He was a 3-WAR player last year. Well, take a look at what a 3-WAR player costs.
Yeah. No.
Drew wants to see a Pirates game.
Drew,
it's a
what's going on,
field.
Drew? Drew's a longtime supporter of Man Hour. Drew, what's going on, man? Good to see you in the chat.
Welcome, Drew.
He says he wants to go see a Pirate. Dude, that is probably the most beautiful backdrop to a Major League Baseball game other than what's it called now? Whatever the Giants ballpark is called now. They changed the name. But the Giants ballpark is the best because you got McCovey Cove in the back, the ocean, you got, but Pittsburgh is a close second to the best backdrop in all of baseball. So if you can get out there, I highly recommend it. There's only 5 ballparks in the league that I haven't been to. But
really?
Pittsburgh's beautiful. Yeah.
Giants ballpark is Oracle Ballpark.
Oracle Ballpark now, yeah.
And they might change it to Jimmy Kimmel Ballpark at some
Jimmy
point.
Kimmel Ballpark. Oh God.
Jimmy Kimmel Stadium. Are you ready to go to one of those? But anyway, I digress.
Exactly. Fitzy says, is Combs wearing a Sox hat?
Oh, it's black. It's black. Oh, come on. Unbelievable.
It's not
At
black.
It's red, white, and blue. It looks black.
It's navy. It's the 4th of July hats.
Not really
and
their
you know what though?
color, but I'll allow it.
I wouldn't not wear a Sox hat. I wouldn't not. I've got a couple of White Sox jerseys. Like I'm not a
Okay.
Cubs fan that hates the White Sox. I'm really not. But I'm a Cubs fan. You know, and that's why like I related to. I don't know if you saw the presser with Dansby Swanson getting introduced to as a Cub. When he started talking about like how he lost his grandfather the day after they got married, and his grandfather was always watching Cubs games while they were in Atlanta, and all, like that, dude, that hit home, man. And that's how I became a Cubs fan. My grandfather was a big Cubs fan, and that's how he raised me. He hated the White Sox. I hated the White Sox too until I was about, I'd say probably about 22, 23 when I started realizing, you know what, to me, sports is sports, and hating a team. Like I hate the Cardinals and I hate the Brewers. We talked about this last week. I want to kick puppies whenever I see the manager of the Brewers, Craig Counsell, on his face on TV just makes me want to kick puppies. Like I hate his face. But no, I related to Dansby Swanson in that interview, and then the Cubs went out and they got their guy at catcher. Well, I guess their guy. It's not the guy that I wanted. But they went out and got great. Now I'm gonna lose his name.
Barnhart. Tucker.
Yeah,
Tucker
Barnhart. Yeah, Tucker Barnhart.
I don't like the name Tucker, but
what did you think of that move?
I actually don't. Look, I'm sure you wanted a stud. It's a 1-year deal. Like I said, the Cubs want to compete next year or the year after. That's the kind of buy this is. I love a good defensive catcher. I mean, maybe call me a baseball purist, whatever. But I like a good defensive catcher. This is a Gold Glove catcher. He's going to do a lot of good things. He's not Wilson Contreras, so just let it go. Let it go. Let it go like you let go the 93 national championship. In 30 years, are we going to be doing this podcast? And are you going to be bitching that the Cubs would have won the 2023 World Series if they had Wilson Contreras? No. Anyway, it's not Wilson Contreras, but he's a good catcher. He's got a little pop in his bat too. Had a upper 3s, 400 OPS a couple years. His best years are probably behind him. His mid-20s were his best years. But I've seen him catch, many times. He's a good catcher. He's one of those guys that are cat-like behind the plate. Pretty good.
So I wanted Gary Sanchez. And I think if you were going to take a flyer on a guy at Wrigley in a year where they're changing all of the rules and bringing guys in and making them play on the dirt and not allowing you to shift, Gary Sanchez would be that guy. Now, the knock on Gary Sanchez is how poor he is defensively. I don't know. I think people are starting to forget that being a good framer and being a good defensive catcher, I guess you could say, is really kind of out the window anymore, right? With the exception of blocking balls in the dirt and throwing guys out on the base paths when they're trying to steal, framing is a lost art, because not only is framing a lost art, but it's also going to go away because they're going to start going to the digital strike zone soon. They're already testing it out in the minor leagues, the challenge on every pitch you can do, all that stuff that they're starting to challenge. I don't think that the emphasis on good defensive catcher is always going to be a thing. Same thing with not just with framing, but with where's I going with that? Now, just not with framing, but even with
blocking pitches, maybe.
Yeah, blocking pitches, calling games, like stuff like that. I mean, a lot of that stuff is going away. You've got the headset now. You don't have to be down there. You don't have to, there is so many things that are going away from, you can't even block the plate anymore. You can't even block the plate to stop a guy from scoring when the ball's coming to the plate until you have the ball in your hands. There is no, I think that you're going to start seeing a lot better offensive catchers than you're going to start seeing defensive catchers. And I think that that's something that people have to get used to. And that's, to me, that's why I really wanted them to take, if you're going to take a 1 year or 2 year flyer on a team, on a player, I think it should have been Gary Sanchez. I think he has way more upside than Tucker Barnhart does.
If you're scoring at home, this is the second time I'm going to disagree with Combs. I don't know. That Martin Maldonado on the Astros is a difference maker, and the guy bats 180. I mean, he really is something else behind the plate. And this Barnhart is not far behind.
Drew chimes in. He's got your back here. So sorry, Combs. Don't care how good the Cubs can be. They will always suck in my book. White Sox all the way.
All right.
Look,
it's one for me.
They're the best. The White Sox are going to be the best team in this city this year. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't think, unless they have like a plague of injuries like last year, I don't think that's. Yeah, I don't think that's debatable. I think they're going to do some things at the edges. I really want them to get Elvis Andrus, but we were talking about the Cubs, so I'll give you the floor. But I still think a good defensive catcher is important. I really do. You either have to have one side of their game. It'd be nice to have both sides,
Yeah.
But it'd be nice but it's good. If he's a hitting catcher, that's good. If he's a really good defensive catcher, you'll take that. I think this is a purchase that says, 2024, we're going to invest in a catcher, or we're going to wait for one of our prospects to be ready.
They should have just kept Wilson Contreras. Let's just be honest.
Yes, I agree with you there.
I don't know. I don't.
Something else might have been going on there.
There had to have been. There had to have been something else there. I do know that a lot of people were talking about his body language with young pitchers. He wasn't very patient with young pitchers. And the way he treated them was one thing, but I don't know. Tucker Barnhart, it didn't move the needle for me. I really did want Will Myers, and now that's gone. Will Myers signing with, I believe, the Reds.
Saw that.
And so that's a good pickup for the Reds. They're a good young team too. They're going to get better year in and year out. Within 2 or 3 years, the Reds are going to be competing for this division. Provided they don't sell off again like they always do. But you look at Tucker Barnhart, and now I'm like, you have to hit a home run at first base. You have to go out and get like a guy like maybe even a Jesus Aguilar if you're looking for the low end. I really like the kid from Houston. What the hell's his name? Battled cancer. His name escapes me now. I was really happy for him when he won the World Series too. But you've got to hit a home run at the first base position, because that is the one spot right now where you are really, really going to be hurting. Because if you have to go through a whole nother year of, platooning guys like Matt Mervis and Patrick Wisdom, like you're going to be hurting there. You really need a solid defensive first baseman to help out your young infield. Dansby Swanson's
what about
a great
Moustakas?
Infielder.
Is it Moustakas still out there?
Moustakas is out there. You know who else is out there? Is Eric Hosmer. That'd be a nice pickup at first base, left-handed bat.
It's not 2000. The only problem is you're living in the past today, Cole.
Because I'm living
2014.
I'm living with the guys who are available. I'm living with the guys who are available. Like people, I put it out there on Facebook. I said, who now that the Cubs got Tucker Barnhart and signed Drew Smyly, who would you guys like to see next on the Cubs list? And the people are out there and they're like, 2 top of the rotation guys. And, I'd really like to go out and see them go get make a trade and go get what's his face from the Red Sox, the third baseman there. Oh God, I'm so bad with names sometimes.
I got it. Just keep talking.
God. Anyway, but they're like, I'm like, yeah, well, I meant realistic guys, like. No,
Devers.
Devers, yeah, Rafael Devers. Like you're not going to go out and get Rafael Devers. You're just not. So I meant realistic, and people were just chiming in with crazy stuff like, I want Devers, or I want this guy and I want that guy. And I'm like, guys, I mean, what top of the rotation guy is available right now? There isn't
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
You're going to get a back of the rotation type guy. Nobody's going to trade you a top of the rotation type guy. I mean, it's just stop. You got to be realistic. So for me, realistically, I'm looking at guys like Eric Hosmer. I'm looking at guys like Jesus Aguilar. I'm looking at guys like, and I'm still trying to think of the damn guy's name from Houston.
Jose Abreu plays
No,
first base
yeah,
for Houston Astros now.
that was a guy that the Cubs should have went out and got.
Yeah.
They should have went out and got, but they were too busy
That would've
trying to
broke
figure out
my
what they were
heart,
doing
man.
at shortstop. That I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I mean, what do you think that the Cubs? If you're a Cubs fan, put your Cubs fan hat on. I know you don't have one, but just put your Cubs fan hat on and tell me who you want the Cubs to go out and get that's still available.
At first base, I've always liked Moustakas. I just read today, though, that they're not going to sign him. But I've always liked that guy. And he could play other positions, too. In a pinch, he can. He even played a season at second base. He could play third base. Like, he's not great there. But he can fill in if he needs to. Left-handed bat, man.
Yeah.
Very valuable. Guy that, a lot of people have talked shit about here or there, had down a half a season or quarter seasons or even full season, but has been a solid player for a lot of teams. Bounced around a lot, but that was the guy I thought that's left that they could get at first base. Yeah. I don't think they're getting a third baseman.
Trey Mancini. That's the guy I was thinking of. Trey Mancini.
Oh.
You can go make a splash and get a guy like Trey Mancini. I mean, like, go out and do the things that you've got to do to look. You can compete in this division this year. You can compete. I don't say you can win it, but you can compete in this division this year. The Brewers aren't going to be very good. The Cardinals are always good. And then you got the Reds and the Pirates. So you can compete in this division. You're probably going to lose it by 9 or 10 games, but you can still compete. So you go out and you get a Trey Mancini. You let your young pitching develop this year. You understand that it's one of those years that you're not going to do much. You've got Dansby Swanson for the next 7 years. You can go out and get a young starting catcher next year. You could do those types of things, but if you can build around, what if you build around Dansby Swanson, a guy like Trey Mancini, who's I think he's only like 31, 32 years old right now.
30, yeah. It's going to be 31, Trey Mancini. I don't know. Guy's only played 120 games or something like that.
Well,
but
he had cancer.
Yeah.
You're faulting the guy for not playing with cancer?
You try to kill Virginia. You try to kill Virginia McCaskey every damn week.
Virginia McCaskey has had 99 years on this planet. She is ready to go and leave my Bears alone. Trey Mancini battled cancer and beat cancer and came back and won a World Series. Is a great story. Don't you poop on Trey Mancini?
It is a good story. It is a good story. But you're going to invest in it. You're going to invest in a guy like that for the future? I don't think so.
Why not? Why can't you?
Because he's going to be 31. I mean, their window is not opening up until at least next year. You've even admitted that. Maybe
so he'll
the
be
year
32
after.
next year. He'll be 32. He's a career 265 hitter. I mean, he can hit for power. I believe he hits from the left side, too, if I remember correct. No, he's a righty. But this is a guy that can hit for power. He's only been in the league for 7 years.
I like the
player.
It's
not like he's been out there for a long time. I don't know. I think that'd be a good gift for the Cubs. I really do.
But you hate Moustakas.
Drew says, I hate the Reds. I would rather slide down a razor into a pool of alcohol than see them win a World Series. That's deep hatred.
Do we have protection here when we're going into the pool of alcohol? Because that's fine then.
Yeah.
If we're naked with the razor, then I have a problem with that.
Which way are you sliding down? Like, I mean, are you going cheeks first? Are you going head first? Like, which way are you sliding down?
Are we straddling the razor?
No, you can't. The boys can't slide down the razor.
No,
the boys. No, I can't. Like, just thinking about it hurts. I can't.
No. John Wayne Bobbitt shit. But
Yeah. All right. So let's
Okay.
get into our Chicago Bears.
yes, I've been
So
waiting.
you wanted to talk about some of the things that have been being said by the Bears organization about Justin Fields. So why don't you start there?
Not just that, the entire damn league. I do want to read a quote from Luke Getzey. He said he's made some incredible plays, and I think I've gone to Fluss every single time, and I'm like, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. To be able to say that multiple times is pretty cool. And then if you listen to Darius Slay, he has like a little podcast, Darius Slay. The Darius Slay was like the only good player on Detroit for a couple of years, other than maybe Matthew Stafford, whatever you think about Matthew Stafford, but was for years on Detroit, probably a Pro Bowler this year too. I think he is a Pro Bowler this year, actually, Darius Slay. I think they just named him a Pro Bowler. Great cornerback. The things he said about him on that run play was ridiculous. If he doesn't step out of bounds, that's one of the best runs of a quarterback ever. I mean, that beats Michael Vick making those two guys on Minnesota Vikings collide into each other back in 2005, 2006, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, and Darius Slay was like, just trying to bottle him up. Like, just talking about the whole play from a cornerback's point of view is really interesting. Like, he thought that who's that number 7 on the Eagles? You can look it up while I'm talking. But that guy was playing your Alex Leatherwood like a fiddle. Alex Leatherwood had freaking truck treads on his back. I mean, he could not handle him that day. I felt sorry for the young kid, but anyway.
Why has it got to be my Alex Leatherwood?
Because you were talking about him the last 2 weeks.
I was saying he's got upside. He's a first round draft pick. He's got upside.
Yes. Yeah, he needs time. I mean, he obviously needs time.
Hassan Reddick is who you're talking about.
Hassan Reddick, yeah. I should have remembered that. But anyway, Hassan Reddick, yeah, just absolutely. But Hassan Reddick grabs Fields on that play, and Darius Slay says, from his point of view, he then turns around and thinks the play's almost over, and then sees him running right by him, and then he tries to bottle him up. And he's like, and that's what we do. You have to bottle the guy up at the sideline. You use the sideline. You try to bottle him up. And he's like, and then he gets away again. And he's like, and if you saw Darius Slay's face after that play, it was unbelievable. And you sent me these stats, but I'm going to read them anyway, just really quickly. Justin Fields after week 4. We talked about this last week. Like, I'd like to see some stats after week 4. So you sent me this over. 13 passing TDs, 7 running TDs, only 7 turnovers, 66% completion, which is kind of where you want it. 7.5 yards per attempt, per pass attempt. That's ridiculous. That's got to be above. That's got to be almost tops in the league from after the 4th game of the season. I mean, when do we start asking, what are we watching here? When do we start saying, what is happening here? Like, what is this? Like, because it's some of this stuff I've never seen before. And that includes Lamar Jackson. Yeah, that includes Randall Cunningham. That definitely includes any other running quarterback you want to put in there. I mean, when I watch this guy play sometimes, I hate to give any comparisons from other sports, but without you falling off your chair over there. But do you think the same thing when you're watching him play? Like, what is this? Like, I've never seen this before. Maybe it's just because the Bears have never had a good quarterback. but
we should be excited as Bears fans.
Who's the comp with this guy?
Yeah. Well, I think that the comp, I don't think there's really a comp. Because I don't really like comparing quarterbacks to other quarterbacks, right? Because you start comparing him to Michael Vick, and everybody's saying, yeah, but Michael Vick flamed out, blah, 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 went to prison. It was never the same.
Killed dogs.
All that stuff. Killed dogs. You don't want to compare him to Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham never won a Super Bowl. You don't want to compare him to, I guess maybe you could compare him to like a mix of quarterbacks. I compare him to kind of like a guy like Donovan McNabb mixed with Michael Vick, if them two were a quarterback. Because people like idiots like your brother out there talking about how this guy can't be a passer, and all of the numbers prove you wrong. The fact that they've got
Yep.
more big plays from the line of scrimmage than any other team in the league proves you wrong. Some of these things that he's doing prove you wrong. Now, look, are there some things that he still has to work on?
There is.
Absolutely. He hangs on to the ball too long. I keep saying it. He hangs on to the ball too long. But I don't know that he's hanging on to the ball too long because of the lack of offensive line and the lack of offensive weapons that he has. But he just does. Now, last week, he had a passer rating of 119.5 with 2 offensive linemen missing, with 4 of his top wide receivers out of the game. And he still had a passer rating of 119.5. Now, that tells me that this kid can do something right. Now, I will tell you, I don't want my quarterback running the ball 15 times a game. I don't.
No.
it's
Even
too
Justin
much.
Fields says he's
Yeah.
not. No.
In the reason why he's running 15 times a game, though, is because he's escaping pressure. Because he has there's maybe 5 or 6 designed runs in a game. The rest of it is him escaping pressure. That offensive line is abysmal. Abysmal. And he's got very little wide receiver help on this team. So I don't know if his lack of progression in getting rid of the ball faster, being able to read routes better, doing that type of stuff, I don't know if that's because he just doesn't have the time to do it or if it's really an issue. I think next year we'll know, because I can't imagine that with $116 million in cap space and the number 2 overall pick in the draft, that the Bears aren't going to do something and build around this and be a contender next year. Look, if Virginia McCaskey, if she's not in her grave by then,
we go.
Should at
Blood
least
pressure check.
Should at least allow the GM to go out there and build this team and build this city a winner. He really should.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way that they played the Philadelphia Eagles, I thought they were going to get trounced. What did I pick? I said something like they were going to lose by like 70. Like
45.
Yeah.
50 something.
53-20, I think I had it at. Like, it was a really, really, I didn't think it was going to be a game at all. I went and threw bags. They had the game on in the background, and I'm like, huh.
I was going to message you.
Close.
I was going to message you. I was sitting there with somebody who listens to the show, and they were saying, like, as soon as you guys made those picks, I knew that it was going to be a lower scoring game. And it was. I mean, the defense showed up, and who is he even passing to at the end of that game? I mean, once St. Brown got hurt, he was passing to Willow or to Tyrion Lannister or whatever. Small person.
If we were available, if we were available to play, he would have been thrown to us.
There. He was passing to somebody who was like the size of Nick Madrigal. I mean, the guy caught the ball a couple of times, so and if Pettis catches a pass, they might win that game. But
yeah, and look, I mean I'm glad they lost.
Yeah,
look, I hate saying that because I never want them to lose. I'm always rooting for them to win.
Yes, so am I.
But the Denver Broncos won. The Bears lost. It pushed the Bears back down to the 2 spot instead of the 3 spot. And that the value of the number 2 pick, because I don't believe the Bears are going to use the number 2 pick. I believe they're going to trade it. And they should trade it. And they should get a lot of value in return for it. Let's hope Ryan Poles isn't Ryan Pace. Let's hope that we see something good out of this draft. But they should be able to build this thing next year. We should be able to see the real Justin Fields next year. You get what I'm saying?
Bears, yeah. No, I agree. If the Bears if they're not a playoff contender with all the teams that go into the playoffs now, next year, there's a problem. Something happened, and Justin Fields is healthy and the team is relatively healthy. They should be a playoff contender at least, because a couple things go a different way. A couple guys don't get traded this year.
How do guys like your brother look at Justin Fields and not say what we're watching out of Justin Fields is special? Like, we've
Well,
never
it's
seen
the
this before for the Bears out of the quarterback position. This is special. What this kid does is you've never seen it before. And we're seeing it as Bears
no.
fans, and he's in a Bears uniform. Usually we're seeing this stuff as other teams come into Chicago and we're watching their quarterback play, but this is our guy.
Let me, for one, for survival, and two, because I actually agree sort of with him.
What?
Let me defend my brother. I don't agree with him that Justin Fields is bad, but for all these years, Combs, to have bad quarterbacks, why would you think that would change? Why would you trust their decision making? I mean, from somebody who wants the ownership to die.
I don't want all the
Why
ownership. I
would
just
you
want one
agree with
owner
that?
to die.
Until you see it consistently week after week after week. I mean, I understand it. I do. And when you see a guy running around, we've seen a lot of these quarterbacks run around. I mean, Vic didn't have a great career. Even Randall Cunningham didn't have a great career. I mean, he had a pretty decent career. I mean, look at Cam Newton, flamed out after what, 7 years, maybe 8 years? I mean, how many years did he have? Won an MVP? Definitely a different quarterback than Justin Fields. I would not comp him to Justin Fields, but you see all these guys. I mean, and the Bears organization, who's never been able to develop a quarterback at all. I mean, I see where he's coming from, but I watched the guy pass the ball. I mean, one of the few passes he can't make is those intermediate passes, and then up the seam, he seems to have trouble knowing whether to put some loft on it or to just overthrow Cole Kmet by 10 yards and have a safety pick him off. But, he does have trouble
we don't know
with
if
some of
that's
those
the timing
passes.
mechanism, though, right?
It
Those
could
are
be.
the things that I see. Like, I see it too. I do see some really bad passes, some really bad decision making sometimes out of Justin Fields. Now you're going to see that about 3 or 4 times a game. Now that's not to say that we don't see that from other quarterbacks in this league. Patrick Mahomes makes mistakes. Josh Allen makes mistakes. I see them all make. Josh Allen had a game a couple weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago, where they had a chance to win the game in the end zone, and he threw it straight into the dirt. Like, it's going to happen, right? I think, and this is me, next year, if the Bears go and get him weapons, if the Bears revamp this offensive line, Justin Fields will be the first Bears quarterback to ever throw for 4,000 yards.
Ooh, boy, big statement. It just depends who they get. It's very hard to speculate right now. But wouldn't you agree with a Bears fan who says, I am not going to believe that this quarterback that they got, that they're able to develop him, one, or two, that he's good until he wins them a playoff game? I mean, that'd be fine with me. But also, I'm still the guy who says, watch him play. I mean, some of his runs, and the way guys react to him. I mean, you even had Von Miller, who, linebacker for the Bills, about to play the Bills, saying that he's a special talent, that he has all the tools to be one of the greats. One of the greats. That's Von Miller.
Yeah.
Motherfucker played with Peyton Manning, for Christ's sake.
I know. Drew says Fields needs experience and maturity. I don't disagree with that, but what I see from Justin Fields, look, this is a guy who's thrown for over 2,000 yards now in this season with no offensive line and no real wide receiver help. So imagine what he's like with an offensive line and with wide receiver help. I'm a big believer in Justin Fields. I love this kid. I'm not of the ilk. I hear a lot of people talking to on a lot of these Facebook pages I'm in. It's funny. You get on these Facebook pages. One of them is called I Am Bears-cessed, right? Like, they're just obsessed with the Bears. It's supposed to be about how they love the Bears. And you would think by reading the comments they hate the damn Bears by the way that they talk. But one guy's like, oh, OSU quarterbacks are always trash. And I hate that.
That is so
comeback.
dumb.
Because name me a university that you would call quarterback university, right? Like, name me one university that's produced so much NFL talent that every guy coming out of there is a great NFL quarterback. You can't. Look at
Notre Dame, Joe Montana.
Look at the quarterbacks that have come out. Like, let's take now, for example, right? Where did Josh Allen go to school? He went to like Norfolk
I
State or
was just-
something
I was just-
crazy, right?
Yeah, I was just
That-
arguing with a guy. I got a guy at work who's a big Buffalo Bills fan.
Yeah,
I was just arguing with
Dak
him about
Prescott
that.
went to like Northern Illinois or something. Like you've got guys in there. Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes. Like
Mhm.
you're not going to any university and finding a guy in those schools. You start looking at the quarterbacks before those guys. You would say, "Oh, no quarterback's ever been good out of there." Well, yes,
Yep.
right, until they are.
No
So just
quarterback's
because
ever
he
been
went
good
to
at it.
Ohio State doesn't mean he's going to be
Yeah.
a failed product in the NFL.
It's
That's
not
it's a
like they
ridiculous
say-
statement.
You could say Eastern Illinois is I mean, we have two quarterbacks. You got, one of which I went to school with, believe it or not, Tony Romo. But there isn't a school like that. That's what, well, if we're relitigating stuff, I'm going to say it again. That's what makes me the Mitch Trubisky pick even worse, because you're drafting for maturity and for actual maturity and ability. And I'm talking about actual IQ as well as arm ability, because
Yeah.
gone are the days where a guy doesn't really have arm ability unless you're Zach Wilson. But
Yeah.
but gone are the days where guys don't have, where you have Shane Matthews as your starting quarterback. If you remember Shane Matthews from the Chicago Bears, Florida State quarterback, decent
You're
Florida
just
State
mad
quarterback.
because Zach
But not
Wilson
for
would bang your mom's friends.
No, that guy.
He's
has
a
the
legend.
That guy has the worst throw a brick in my face since Jay Cutler. in the NFL.
I agree, but he's still banging moms. Like he's still
Yeah.
he's out there with Stifler's mom right now. Like that's what that guy is. But you can't look at the Bears and look at them and what they've got in Justin Fields and assume that they're not going to be able to develop this guy. I believe that they've got the right pieces in place in the coaching staff. I believe we've got the right GM. Now those guys have to go out and make me believe that they can get the right players to build around the talent that they have. You're going to have Chase Claypool next year. You're going to have a healthy what the hell's his name? Number 11 there. Our wide receiver one. Mooney. You're going to have Darnell Mooney, who can be your wide receiver 3 next to Chase Claypool and another wide receiver that you pick up. He's a wide receiver 3. Just stop.
Here we go.
And then you still have your running backs. Get an offensive line. Get a number 1 wide receiver. Go out there. And I'm still telling you in the draft, man, Quentin Johnston is the pick in the draft for me. I don't care where you trade down to. I don't care what you do with the number 2 pick. Quentin Johnston you have to get
7
that
or
guy.
8.
7 or 8. And I'm telling you, Quentin Johnston's the pick because they've got so much money to revamp that offensive line and defense that Quentin Johnston has got to be the pick there.
I don't know, man. They just 2 top offensive tackles just came off for free agency recently. I just don't think you get really good defensive linemen and really good offensive linemen at those prize positions. I just don't think you get them later in the draft, and very few teams get rid of those guys unless they're done, unless they know something about them, or unless they're the Raiders.
Just don't draft Peter Skoronski. You draft Peter Skoronski, and I'm going to be pissed. Do you see his tweet?
No, I didn't see it.
One of the offensive guards in the draft, he tweeted out a picture of Aaron Rodgers after they beat the Bears and said he still owns you. I don't want that guy on my team.
No.
Get the hell out of here.
With a team, I mean, come on. That Packers win, okay, I guess. The Bears were really conservative.
The Bears did everything they could to lose that game.
Yes.
If that Packers Bears game didn't prove to you that they're tanking, then nothing will. You won't believe anything we say.
No. And then not even trying to kick those field goals.
Dude.
And then having Dante Pettis
You
decide whether you're
took
going to get
the
a
ball
first
out
down.
of Justin Fields' hands in the second half when he was the only player doing whatever he wanted to do to the Packers offense. You're like, nah, never mind. We're going to give it to everybody else. Like, you took it out of his hands.
That brings up a good question. What game has Justin Fields been in where he was playing, I'm not saying in career-wise, but in game, he was the lesser of the two quarterbacks? Which game was he? The last 7-8 games. Which game was he?
Oh, the last 7 to 8 games?
Last week's game he wasn't. You can't say Jalen Hurts had a better game. He threw two really bad picks.
Yeah.
Really bad picks.
I
mean, he ran for a couple of 3 touchdowns, which is kind of
I would say maybe in the game against the Cowboys, maybe would be the last one I can think of where he was outperformed by the other quarterback. I mean, they put up 49.
So yeah, they did. But Prescott did throw an interception. That wasn't a bad interception. Eddie Jackson ate his lunch on that play. That's the best interception I've seen this year. I mean, that was a really good that's Ed Reed type shit. Dak Prescott couldn't believe that. But
he did have a good game that game too, though. So don't get me wrong. I mean,
against a really talented defense.
Against a really good defense. I think that was his best passer rating of the season was in that game too. I think it was like a 120 or something. So he had a really good passer rating in that game. So I don't know. To me, Justin Fields is the quarterback of the future. I don't think that there's any question about Justin Fields. I have zero comment, and I really do believe you go out and you get him an offensive line, you get him one more wide receiver, and he's going to be the first quarterback in the history of the Bears to throw for 4,000 yards. I have no questions about that whatsoever.
To the shame of the Jay Cutler family.
Jay Cutler threw for 36 one year.
Yeah, he did. He had a couple good years. I mean, for right now, if Justin Fields
should have went to a Super Bowl,
bridge,
but he decided to ride an exercise bike instead.
Oh, here we go.
Fucking guy.
Didn't he tear his MCL?
Dude.
I mean,
if you could ride the exercise, look at what Josh Allen is doing in the regular season with his elbow is hanging off of his body on his throwing arm.
Yeah.
No, it's his throwing elbow.
No, you're right. It is.
So it's just, to me, I don't get. I would love to have a conversation with Brian Urlacher, like an off camera, just in the bar, me and you having a beer conversation with Brian Urlacher, because I really want to know what he feels
having the season of his life
about Cutler in that championship game. Because to me, if I'm Urlacher, that ends it for me with Jay Cutler. You gave my one shot away at a Super Bowl, my one real shot away at a Super Bowl.
That was one of the last times I've seen a middle linebacker almost single-handedly beat one of the best, like I say, probably the best quarterbacks I ever seen. I mean, he had that interception return where he just absolutely played. Talk about a guy playing a guy on interception, played Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers even admitted it.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have won that game.
They should have won that game. Even the Super Bowl that they lost in 2008, they should have won that Super Bowl. To me, I blame, 2007. Yeah, so I blame that one on what's his face, who's coaching Washington now, Ron Rivera. I blame Ron Rivera for that game because, to me, we had Indy in that first half. We had them dead to rights. And in that second half, we went to a prevent defense and let Peyton Manning pick us apart for an entire half to come back and win that game.
The Bears win that game going away if Tommy Harris and Mike Brown are playing. Yeah. After Hester returns that kick, Devin Hester returns that kick. Right after he returns that kick, Daniel Manning has a really bad, too bad because he was he actually was a pretty good safety, pretty good returner too, Daniel Manning.
Yeah.
But he creeps up too much. And I think it was Reggie Wayne? I think it was Reggie Wayne that gets the touchdown over top him. It was just a terrible safety play. He was a rookie. Mike Brown's there. That doesn't happen.
No, Mike Brown probably picks it off.
And then Joseph Adai runs for 130, 140 yards, I think, in that game. Just shreds the Bears defense. That never happened when Tommy Harris and Mike Brown were in the game. If both of them are in the game, they probably win. It doesn't even matter if Ron Rivera's in the game. And Ron Rivera made a lot of questionable calls as their defensive coordinator. That's why I was surprised he got a head coaching job, but whatever.
Yeah.
He put the year before, one of their quarterbacks got hurt the year before, and they're playing Steve Smith. Carolina ends up shredding him. Steve Smith, one of their corners go down, and instead of putting the backup corner on Steve Smith, he puts a new guy from Nicholls State that you haven't seen all year. I forget the guy's name, and I felt sorry for him. And Steve Smith just freaking burns him.
We're gonna start doing a side podcast. We're gonna do a second podcast once a week where we're gonna come up with one season a year, and we're gonna relitigate the whole thing, and we're gonna come up with a new champion and who it should have been and why it should have been, and these are your new champions, and we're gonna put it in. That's gonna be a second podcast for us. But all right, so we're out of time here. We are going to we won't be on Sunday, our normal Sunday time. Obviously, it's Christmas. We'll be spending time with the family. We will be back. I believe we're gonna be back New Year's Day. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see how hungover we are. If not, we'll be back sometime that week, and we'll do a show. But until then, Merry Christmas to you guys. Merry Christmas to everybody who's out there. Happy New Year, guys. Be safe. If you're traveling, be safe.
Exactly.
If you're out on New Year's Eve, definitely be safe. Do not drink and drive. Get an Uber, call a friend, do whatever you got to do. Do not drink and drive. Fitzy, Merry Christmas to you and the family, buddy.
Merry Christmas, Combs.
Yeah, we'll see you here relatively shortly. All right.
Yep.
All right. Have a good one. Till next time, Man Hour Nation, rise up.